Welcome, everyone. It's MLB Now, Home Edition. I'm Brian Kenny. Today, we are joined by author Joan Ryan. Her latest book, right up our alley. Joan, Intangibles, Unlocking the Science and Soul of Team Chemistry. Joan, it's great to have you on the show. How's everything?
Everything's good, Brian. Thanks for having me on.
This has been a lot of fun. You and I have gotten to talk about this at Sabre Analytics. And see, I'm open to this. I know you think I don't like this stuff. I think I do when you go to the depths that you do, psychological, evolutionary, chemical, all the different things that go into human interactions. Why don't we start there? I love that you start with like how humans are built at the very, very base and how that can figure into putting together a good baseball team or a winning baseball team. Give us something on the human level of how we interact with each other.
Right. So in studying team chemistry, it's basically studying human nature. So going back to looking at how we evolved as a species, over 3 million years, our brains quadrupled, and we have the biggest brains in the animal kingdom in proportion to our bodies. So why did they grow so big? We think it's to house all our intellect, but actually, the reason why it kept growing was to accommodate all our social wiring. Obviously we all know we're tribal animals, we're open loop creatures. So we have to depend on each other to survive. And I talk about the studies of the, Romanian orphans, the orphans during turn of the century England, where to stop the spread of disease, they told the caretakers and nurses not to touch the babies, just feed them, change them, and leave them alone. And most of them died. And so years later, when a scientist went back and said, well, why did that happen? What they learned, and every research paper since then confirmed, that human beings actually need the touch, the voice, the interaction of others to be complete. So when you apply that to team chemistry, right, that we profoundly influence each other every moment of every day. Like I just saw your eyebrows go up, right? So my brain is seeing the message embedded in that, and my brain then recalibrates, and my facial muscles, my tone of voice respond to that. So this kind of dance of human tribes in which we're constantly influencing each other's moods, energy, even hormones and metabolism.
Now, all this is fascinating. If we get right to baseball, I've always maintained, and I do a lot of this for effect because, the majority of sports writing in my whole formative upbringing, formative years in the business, most sports writing was all about team chemistry. So it wasn't like that was lacking. It was everywhere, but it was always done to kind of replace, I thought, actual analysis. Given that baseball is more of an individual sport, right? It's not like basketball or soccer where you do have to work together. There's one ball. How important is that interaction in the clubhouse as far as performance?
It's huge in baseball, especially, as you said, for that reason, because you look at baseball, it's almost like if you're in an office and everybody's sitting in cubicles, when you look at them out on the field, right? Unlike basketball or football. So what happens in their relationships in the clubhouse, in the dugout, they take with them out onto the field. So if you have a batter standing in the batter's box, you think, well, how does team chemistry help that guy? He's there by himself. Nobody can help him. Well, the help has already happened. His teammates have, as Jake Peavy put it best, of all the interviews, 150 interviews I did, Jake Peavy crystallized this for me, and it goes to your question. He said when he's standing on the mound as a pitcher, and any of us who know Jake Peavy, right, the snorter and stomper and 110% at all moments, when I asked him, Jake, how does team chemistry help you at all? Because you're already giving 100%. And he said, my teammates bring out a fight in me I can't willingly summon for myself. And so that is what this is all about. And we know, and I remember asking you this at the Sabre conference, Brian, for people who doubt that this is real and that we influence each other so much and affect each other so much, you ask, how much do you think Coco, your wife, has made you a better man?
Mhm.
And can you measure it? No, you can't measure it. It doesn't make it less real.
Right. Now you measure the effects, and right, of course, you're not complete without that other person. My wife and I, yeah, included. Um, you now the ultimate test, though. You worked with the San Francisco Giants, so you go into the championship run. But just before that was the Barry Bonds run. So there's Bonds and Kent. So I know Bonds obviously an all-time great player,
Yeah.
but is he chemistry or anti-chemistry in the clubhouse?
That was my question too, Brian. So I had this theory that there are super carriers of chemistry like the Johnny Gomes and the, Mark DeRosa's, Hunter Pence's. And then there should be, right, super disruptors of chemistry. And we have a whole list, and Barry Bonds would probably be at the top of most people's baseball list. So I went into this book thinking he's my super disruptor. I'm going to write a chapter on how that really diminishes performance on a team, only to find out after doing all my interviews and all the rest of it, that wasn't true. What he was that genius savant like a Steve Jobs. And we know those people are just, a little odd. And Bonds was on that island by himself of misfit toys. And now you bring in Jeff Kent on top of that, and you think that clubhouse is just going to crack wide open. And it did sometimes between Kent and Bonds. They really, as we know, really disliked each other. And we know that the famous fist fight they had in the dugout that one game. But guess what? They had incredible chemistry on the field, which I call task chemistry. It's why those 70s A's and Yankees teams, the 25 players, 25 Cavs teams, could win championship after championship, because on the field, they absolutely trusted each other. And when I finally did get to sit down with Bonds and Kent, Bonds said there's nobody he wanted at second base other than Jeff Kent. And Jeff Kent said the same thing about Bonds. So the team outside of those two guys, they formed their own team chemistry, and they understood who they were, and they contributed so much to their winning that the rest of the team left them alone. Now, were they annoying? Did they get under everybody's skin? Yes, but it did not affect their performance. And of course, the numbers show that they were really good team. When the two of them were playing together, they were a very, very good team.
Yeah, no, their best years, no question, when they were with each other. One last major thing, Joan. So say I'm a general manager and I've read your book and you've had access to all the experts in all these very different fields. So how do I go and shop for this, right? I'm already trying to get talent, but then to kind of reform or fill out my roster in just the right way, how do I shop for these type of players for the right mix?
There's no prescription. Unfortunately, there is. I wish I could tell you, here are the 7 steps to putting together a great team chemistry team. Team chemistry can't manufacture talent. So as you say, you have to have the talent. That is number one. And from that, you have to have those key players. Now, a guy who's a great team chemistry guy on one team may not be on another team. There are so many interacting parts. It's like an ecosystem, right? You change one thing in an ecosystem and all the honeybees could be dead, right? There's this effect that's not always predictable. And Aubrey Huff is a great example. He was a terrible teammate for most of his career, except for that one 2010 season. Now, having said all of that, I would say that if you see a pattern, as we did with Johnny Gomes, 242 lifetime hitter, nobody's number one pick, but his teams had a habit of winning. So if you look at that kind of track record, I think you can really help your team. But there's no prescription that I can figure out. And so I hope that my book is just the start of, the people like you and all the people who are, analysts and really get how to figure out what goes into performance and can figure out more about team chemistry as far as how exactly it works to elevate performance?
Well, I mean, Joan, we've spoken about this before. It's because, I mean, energy is real, and energy in a room can be elevated. I even described that a lot of the guys we work with at MLB Network, I wonder if you put that team together, because again, Millar, Casey, Pena, DeRosa, they're famously like these good guys who reach out to people. But what if you just got those guys? Do you still need kind of an edgy jerk too, or can you just have good guys?
You have to have, I have my 7 archetype characters that
Mm-hmm.
most great team chemistry teams have on their team. Now, you can't hire for them, but they generally tend to emerge because a great team chemistry team kind of manufactures what it needs. And you have to have the enforcer, and the enforcer is not the guy who knocks other players over on the other team. The enforcer is within your own clubhouse. So you have to get that guy that doesn't mind being unpopular to say the things that need saying, even though you may come off as a bit of a jerk. And everybody's like, God, that guy's a jerk, but he's right. And we got to get back on board here. So you absolutely have to have that enforcer on the team. And almost every great chemistry team has one.
We'll find one. I mean, we've got a few around at work too.
I know. I was going to say, Brian, are you that guy on your?
Yeah. Sounded familiar, but I don't want to go right into that. Joan, outstanding work. Intangibles: Unlocking the Science and Soul of Team Chemistry. It's out now. Joan, always a pleasure to talk to you. When we're past this, we'd love to have you in, and we'll go we'll bring in Ken Rosenthal and throw it right in my face. You'll enjoy that.
Love it. Love it. Brian, thank you so much.
All right. Take care, Joan.